Get hold of a mask of power. Exploit its might, but beware of what lurks within. Channel elemental breath from dragons. Become almost undetectable using the camouflage of a mimic, or capture dreams with fey abilities. Each type of creature has a unique set of powers that you can add to a mask that has captured its essence. Inside this book, you will find a compendium of rules for turning slain creatures into masks that allow the wearer to channel their particular abilities. New character options focused on using such masks, and legendary creatures to encounter on your adventures. Hello, and today we are reviewing Masks of Power by Axos Stories. Basically, it's a book where you craft these masks, and basically, the masks give you powers. Masks of Power adds a couple of new things. It adds a new subclass for each of the standard core classes. Its main thing that it adds a whole new system for crafting masks out of monsters you have slain. This book also adds 19 new monsters to put into your games. Lastly, it also does have a short little one-shot adventure that you can run. I'm not here to talk explicitly about all the subclasses and all the beasts and go into detail of explaining each one perfectly. I'm just here to talk about the negatives and the positives. So without further ado, let's get into the on the second page of the book, there's already a typo problem. Introducing masks into your game. Right down here, the characters find a mask of power as treasure in a dungeon or receive one as reward. Does that make sense? Receive one as reward. I think they probably meant it to be receive one as a reward, because that's grammar. That's correct grammar. And let me tell you, this book has a lot of grammar issues. And I'm not trying to sound like one of those guys who's like, actually, it's whomever, not whoever. But it's just, I could flip to any page of this book and there's a grammar issue. And now let's talk about some of the bad things with these subclasses. You see, the subclasses themselves aren't really a bad idea, but just some of the things on how the subclasses are written is very overpowered or just weird. Like, let's go to the mnemonic tactician subclass for the fighter. Its third level feature, it gets some masked maneuvers, and some of these are just crazy. Like Draconic Frenzy. You attack with the same ferocity as a dragon. Once in each of your turns, when you use the attack action, you can make an additional attack with each of the weapons you are using for that action. Do you understand how crazy that is? That's giving you an extra attack. And while you don't add your strength modifier to the damage of those additional attacks, that's still huge. Okay, and also Fey Flourish. Fey Flourish is insane. Your movements are as deceptive as illusions. Once on each of your turns, if you make a melee attack right after moving at least 5 feet, you gain advantage in that attack. That's literally just free advantage every single attack. There's also this one that's called Monstrous Advance, which says you are not kin to letting your enemies get away. When an enemy creature within 5 foot of you takes a 5-foot step, you can immediately use your reaction to also take a 5-foot step, as long as you finish your movement within 5 feet of the triggering creature. Which I kind of find that weird, because I don't understand why they didn't just say, when a monster within 5 feet of you moves 5 feet away, you can choose to follow them. But I think that's because that's something from Pathfinder, 5-foot step. I'm like 99% sure. And then there's also something weird right below it. Once you use this feature, you must finish a short or long rest before you can use it again. But notice how the short on the long rest isn't capitalized like how the long is. I find that weird, that the two words are right next to each other and it's improper and they're not the same. And also another overpowered one is Primal Strike. You leave any semblance of care in exchange for dealing a powerful blow. Once each of your turns, you can make a melee attack that deals additional damage equal to your weapon's damage dice. That's literally just a free critical hit every single turn. And then here's the weird one. Style of the elements. You adopt a fighting style that tries to recreate the characteristics of an element. The benefit you gain depends on the type of elemental trapped inside a mask you wear. And right here, there says air. You add your dexterity bonus to the damage you deal with ranged weapons, which you already do. Earth, whenever you are about to receive damage, you can use your reaction to brace yourself and gain resistance against physical damage dealt by that attack, which is another thing that I'm pretty sure is from Pathfinder, because in Pathfinder, physical damage is like bludgeoning and slashing and piercing. And also the water one, whenever you receive damage from a melee attack from an enemy you have within reach, you may strike it back as a reaction. Strike action isn't an action in the game. I think most D&D players infer that that's the attack action. But again, in Pathfinder, attack actions are strike actions. Here's just another typo that I find really weird for the Ranger archetype Masked Hunter. If you see right there in the track and hunt feature for their weak spot, the weak is boldened, but the spot isn't, which I find really weird that they couldn't just bold the word that's literally right next to it. Something I wanted to point out here is I do find it weird how the art is different from all the other subclasses so far. Like all the other art has been line art, and then we get to the sorcerer and it's some 3D or something. I also see some weird things, like the horns not filling up all the way with the electricity, and that stone all the way to the right, the lightning bolt coming off of it not really reaching the guy's cape, which I find really weird. And there's also a few other things that I think might be AI art in this book too, like this spider mask. That web, both the webs actually are done in a really weird way that I don't really understand. And there's also another one, that mask. I'm no artist, but I'm pretty sure necks aren't supposed to be drawn that way. And this is another example of something overpowered. It's for the wizard, it's the wizard subclass, but their second level feature called Awaken Mind. At second level, when you're wielding a mask, you gain the following benefits. You can maintain concentration for up to 2 spells at the same time. There's really crazy things you can do with that. Now we get into chapter 2 of this book, creating the masks of power. The first mask is Aberration. So basically when you wear a mask, it can give you boons and you choose what the boons are. This boon is insanely overpowered. It's called Psionic Caster. You don't require material components to cast spells. This is a common aberration boon. That means you only have to defeat a CR0 aberration, and then you can just spam Revivify. With the uncommon aberration moons, so there's a feature called Tentacle, and it says you can make one of your arms become a spiked tentacle you could use to attack your enemies. How much damage does the tentacle do? It doesn't specify. It's just a tentacle, no damage. Next up, we have the Beast masks. Look down here. It says using monstrosities as beasts. Not even 3 lines down, they spelled monstrosities the correct way. Like, could they just not peek up 3 lines and be like, oh hey, I made a mistake, I should fix that? Like, what is this laziness? But look, for the plot hook idea, the New Valley. And you see how it's spelled N-E-U? Just a few lines down, the beast of New Valley. N-E-U, you go all the way over to its stat block, and look, it's spelled the beast of New Valley. N-I-E-U. How did they misspell their own monster that they created? I actually don't really have any problems with the celestial boons. The iconic construct boon is called No Chaos. But over there to the right on the table, it says law change uses. And nothing in the No Chaos is talking about something called law change. So I think that's kind of weird. And here's another thing that's wrong. With law understanding, it says you can expend 1 charge as a bonus action to gain an advantage on charisma diplomacy checks, which diplomacy is another thing that I'm pretty sure is in Pathfinder. I don't really have any really big problems with the dragon. Now let's go on to the elemental masks. And again, with this elemental, all these boons, they're all okay. I've still had problems with all of them, but if I listed all of my problems out, it would take too long. So let's get on to the Fey masks. Another wording error that I find is weird for the rare Fey boons. For Fey Bacchanal, spend 4 charges as an action, designate an area of up to 50 by 75 feet. That's just weird. Like, why did they just put like 50 by 50 feet or 75 by 75 feet? Why specifically 50 by 75 feet? Other than that, I have no other super huge problems. So let's get on to the Fiends. There's no other super big problems that I have with the Fiend. But let's get on to the giant masks. Oh, and if you look right here, there's a little box that says either the players or villains can craft hollow masks intended to trap powerful fiends inside by committing horrific acts. It's the same box from earlier. I don't know why it shows up again in the giant. How does that even happen? Like, what editing error do you make? Oh, and then over here in the common giant boons, there's one called Ancient Skill. You can tap into the abilities that the giant inside the mask has cultivated as part of this heritage, blah, blah, blah. And look, the Gitant. I love the Gitant. I don't understand this. Why is there just pictures of 2 random legs? And it's just so random. Yep, that's all I have to say about Giant. Let's go on to monstrosities now. I have nothing to really say about monstrosities. Let's go on to the oozes. Another weird one is from very rare ooze boons is slime organs. Your ooze form protects you from the most gruesome damage. Whenever you're dealt a critical hit, you can expend 4 charges as a reaction to only take half damage. Then why didn't they just put, when you take a critical hit, you can expend 4 charges to make it so that it's just normal damage instead? And that's all I have to say about oozes. So let's go to plants now. Their iconic plant boon synthesis is insane. While attuned to the mask after a long rest, you gain temporary hit points equal to the rarity of the mask. Also, you can recover the temporary hit points by moving 10 feet or less in your turn. Even for a common, that's 5 temporary hit points, 5 extra hit points that you have, which is still pretty freaking good. And later on, 30 extra hit points every single turn is absolutely crazy. One of the another funny one that I've found, it's a rare plant boon, adaptive environment. Plants can adapt to different environments and sometimes change it to suit them. As a bonus action, you can expend 4 charges to change the terrain to your liking. It doesn't even specify like how big the range is. What if I just want a volcano? Does a volcano just pop up in the middle of the forest that I'm in? This would actually be really good as a ranger because then you could actually get use from your favorite terrain. But then again, favorite terrain isn't even that good. That's all I really have to say about the plants. Let's go to undead now. And of course, the undead have another problem too. Look, the plot hook idea, Zir the Lich. And it even spells Zir the same exact way the second time, Z-I-R. When you go to his stat block is spelled Zir, Z-Y-R. Why do they have such a problem with spelling their own characters' names? That is all of the masks. So let's get on to talking about the one shot called Illusions and Fractals. And oh my goodness, I don't know if you can tell, but that image is really grainy. Okay, just a quick summary of this one shot. But let's get on to the bestiary. This is Astramax. Something weird, in Astramax Incarnation and in Astramax Wrath, they both have regular speed, but in Astramax Shackled, he for some reason has hover. The second guy, Bassidrax, he's a dragon. I actually like his stat block, except he doesn't have a flying speed. He just has 40 feet movement. I guess his wings just don't work. And then here, Ezithet, the Seeker of Perfection, he actually looks pretty cool, but somehow he has a flying speed. How does this guy have a flying speed, but a literal dragon doesn't? Here's Gastroplasma, and then over here is Garak. And then we have the Moon Giant. I'm so sorry, it's actually the Moon Gigant. Oh, and look, there's even a new type of creature called the Gigant. Here's Nephi. Here's my favorite monster of the whole book, the Pumpkin King. There's some released masks. The Starfell Shards. The Beast of New Valley is okay. Look, its Horde is freaking blocking some of the stat block. Next one, the Worm Beneath the Mountain. White Paws. Also Yaxcon. And then finally, Zir. Right down here, Zir Soljar. Zir Soljar is a small ring. Why do they say Zir Soljar? But anyways, those were all the negatives of the book. And now for the... I like the concept of this book, and I like that it adds some stuff, so I don't really have to homebrew that much. Those are the positives. On a scale of 1 to 10, I rate this book, drum roll please, 3.5 out of 10. It's just, I find myself with almost every single thing I read, I had to change it in some way because it was either wrong with its like way it was written out, like it would last indefinitely, or like so much of the stuff, like I couldn't show it all. So much of the stuff was like so overpowered, or some of the stuff was just so wrongly balanced. Like it wasn't just overpowered, it was all the stuff was put in the wrong place. And honestly, I feel like I would have just been better off making my own system. Like this was money not well spent, especially with all the typos that I had to get through. Like every single page, there was some weird wording or typo or misprinting error. And it just really was really annoying, and it took way more work reading it than it had to. Like I had to constantly change everything. So overall, this is probably a book that I'm going to use in my campaign, but I'm going to change a lot of this stuff in here. And while I do appreciate it does add subclasses and a new system and some new beasts for me to add. So yup, thank you guys for watching. Comment down below what book you want me to waste my money on next to review for you guys. Driving in my car right after